Do you believe as though our government acts on our best interest? Just answer yes or no down in the comments down below. Now, I'm asking you this because it looks like one of our allies is starting to move beyond what we've advised and are now thinking of their own people. And just so that you don't need to wait until this video is over, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you out right now that it was Japan. But what did they do? Oh, nothing. They just bought oil above the $60 per barrel cap, showing that they're not in line with the United States and its allies. Wow. Now, again, you got to wonder, are they doing this to show support for Russia, or are they instead doing it for their own citizens? Now, you guys may or may not be aware of this, but inflation's also pretty bad over there. Now, when it comes to problems though, Blackstone has a huge one, and it's worth billions upon billions of dollars. Who do they have this problem with? Well, surprisingly, it's their very own investors. Now, here's another surprise. The United States continues to import used cooking oil from China. Now, you might be wondering, why are they doing that? Well, there's a very good explanation. We're using it to make renewable diesel. And in another update from overseas, it seems as if we cannot stay away from the problems of other countries, as we are now looking at the possible rift with Israel. This is absolutely insane, guys. Now, before I continue, please take a second, smash the like button for the video. It really helps out a lot with the YouTube algorithm, and it inspires me to continue to focus on providing more interesting videos for you guys with the facts that you deserve. And if you're new here and you're in need of your daily dose of the truth for when it comes to global happenings, the state of our economy, social security, and everything going on in Washington, D.C. that affects our lives and our bank accounts, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And for the best way to invest in gold, hit the link in the description down below this video. So guys, the only thing that is constant is change, and change is happening at a very rapid pace. And it's crazy just to think how far we've come when it comes to global space. Now, Japan, one of our allies, just bought Russian oil above the advised price. And if you think that this is normal, you're living in a dream world. So months ago, Japan admitted that if it came down to it, they would be willing to sell U.S. treasuries to uplift or support the Japanese yen. The problem is that this would cause all of us a lot of problems, because where else will all of those dollars go? Well, they'll all be coming back home, which will probably cause hyperinflation in our country. So anyway, let's get back to Japan buying Russian oil. Now, I got this from a recent article on Fox News, and it said this, quote, Japan has begun purchasing Russian crude oil above the $60 a barrel cap, breaking with Western allies thanks to an exception authorized by the United States. As many European nations wean themselves off Russian oil in response to the invasion of the Ukraine, Japan stepped up its purchase of Russian natural gas. Japan has almost none of its own fossil fuels, heavily relying on imports for much of its energy needs. Some analysts believe this dependency heavily influenced Japan's hesitancy to fully back Ukraine against Russia. To date, Japan is the only group of 7 members to not have supplied Ukraine with lethal weapons, end quote. Okay, let's talk about it. So yes, the trade was authorized by the United States, and yes, we are indeed tightly connected to them in trade as well. But the problem is in thinking that we're in an advantageous spot when in reality, we may be losing allies soon. And that could possibly happen within the next few years. I mean, we're possibly going to be seeing the BRICS nations get bigger and stronger because we seem to be meddling with everyone else. Within the first 2 months of 2023, Japan has now bought 748,000 barrels of Russian oil for around $70 a barrel. And it's rumored that this is Japan simply putting their citizens first before the agenda of other world powers, as an official of their Ministry of the Economy said this, quote, we have done this with an eye toward having a stable supply of energy for Japan, end quote. So what do you guys make of this? Now, on the topic of buying oil supplies from other countries, it's now being reported that the United States has imported more than 500,000 barrels of cooking oil from China in 2023. Oh, sorry, I meant to say USED cooking oil. That sounds nasty, doesn't it? However, we're not using them to cook food. Instead, we've invested in making renewable diesel. Now, this type of biofuel is identical to traditional diesel fuel and can be used in ordinary diesel engines. It sounds like a smart idea, although it's crazy to think that we need to outsource this sort of stuff overseas. And since we're already talking about business overseas, we just got word as to how Israel wants President Biden and his nose out of theirs. Wow. So just a quick background, Israel's prime minister got back to power early this year with the most right-wing government that the country has ever seen. Now this political group wants to get rid of the Supreme Court, basically seeing them as a hindrance for their agenda. Now, their prime minister is on board with this plan and wants to pass a series of laws to weaken the Supreme Court. This has then sparked protests against him and his coalition, and of course the United States had to say something about it. Here, check this out.
About Israel, how concerned are you about the health of democracy there in Israel?
Like many strong supporters of Israel, I'm very concerned. And I'm concerned that they get this straight. They cannot continue down this road. And I've sort of made that clear. Hopefully the Prime Minister will act in a way that he's going to try to work out some genuine compromise, but that remains to be seen.
Are you inviting Prime Minister Netanyahu to the White House, sir? You
No.
will be coming to Washington?
Not in the near term.
To which the prime minister answered with this statement, quote, Israel is a sovereign country which makes its decisions by the will of its people and not based on pressures from abroad, including the best of friends, end quote. Yeah, that could be a really kind way of saying, stay in your lane, Joe. But wait, is the United States and the Biden administration really helping to spark these protests? In a word, yes. The State Department has granted funding to a left-wing group that are behind the protests in Israel called the Movement of Quality Government, which is a nonprofit organization.
Tens of thousands of people took to the streets across Israel on Sunday, angry after the country's defense minister, Yoav Gallant, was sacked. Just a day earlier, Gallant had broken ranks with the government and urged a halt to a highly contested plan to overhaul the justice system. Demonstrators blocked a major highway in Tel Aviv, waving blue and white Israeli flags and lighting bonfires. They also gathered outside Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's private residence in Jerusalem.
We are here for the democracy. Bibi is not here for the democracy. Thank you very much.
We're here to protest. We feel that we have no other way. This has to be stopped. This prime minister is not qualified anymore.
You guys have to realize that the United States is providing billions of dollars to Israel, be it in aid or weapons, so I guess that's why we're so involved. And it could be the reason as to why we would want them to follow what we want for them. Does that make sense? Like, we'll provide them with weapons and the money, but Israel has to fall in line like other countries and do as they're told. I guess the problem is that Israel may not want to comply with all these possible rules, and they may see our government continue to be involved in these protests. Here's a question. How much of our world's problems would be solved if we just kind of kept to ourselves? Just a quick question on that one. While that in and of itself is a huge problem for the Biden administration, companies like Blackstone are also facing huge challenges as they have had to block withdrawals from their $70 billion real estate income trust again, as they're receiving plenty of redemption requests. Now, more commonly known as BREIT or BREIT, the total redemption request was at $4.5 billion in March, but they said, nope, that's too high. And they only gave out a total of $666 million. Rather odd number to choose. It's a whole lot of sixes in there. Anyway, now you have to wonder why they chose that particular number, because it really looks very sinister. You also have to wonder how bad of a shape real estate is in for these people to just continuously block withdrawals like this. Man, it's scary to be an investor in that company, isn't it? And it truly feels as though we're getting to a point in time where we won't even have control over our own money. But again, the judgment is up to you guys. Let me know what you guys think about what we talked about today. Now, what's also scary is that Americans are suffering with the cost of living today. And there's no easy way to say it. This inflation problem is going to be around for a long time to come. That's the reality. But the question is, what can we do? We can get serious about our dreams. I mean, there are opportunities out there, but you got to be wise as to pick the ones that are best suited for you. There's the possibilities opened up by investments in the stock market, in real estate, even in precious metals like gold and silver. There's the chance to develop multiple streams of income through side hustles or small businesses. And if you're interested in learning more about these money-making methods and how to strengthen your cash flow, feel free to get in contact with me. You can just drop me a comment down below. I want you guys to realize that you are in charge of your future. So make the necessary changes today. Now, before I go, please take a second, drop a thumbs up for the video. Also subscribe for your daily dose of the truth. Please be kind to one another, and I'll see you guys on the next one.